Before we begin, council, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you are participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless you are speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Robert's Rules of Order is the parliamentary authority for council meetings under Wasilla Municipal Code 2.04.090. Under this authority, I respectfully request council observe the following. Kindly seek recognition before speaking, that no member speak more than twice on the same motion without an affirmative vote on the motion to suspend the rules, that no member speaks a second time until everyone who wishes to do so has spoken once. The purpose of recognizing these rules is to ensure the right to speak is equally respected and that discussion is not dominated. Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cottle.
Here.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson called to let us know that he will be arriving at approximately 6:30 p.m. Councilmember Crafton.
Here.
Councilmember Vlog.
Here.
Councilmember Rubeo.
Here.
Thank you. You do have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Cottle, if you would lead us. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item of business is approval of the agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Ms. Rubio.
under AS 29.20.010, I declare substantial financial interest in AM number 24-60, which approves a contract amendment to Big Dipper Construction Incorporated for $134,988.99 for additional work on the Richmond Hills Booster Station project. I request to be excused from the discussion and vote on this item, as Edge Remodel, a company owned by my husband and myself, will be a subcontractor on the project. I would like to move AM number 24-60, item 8.4.7 from the consent agenda to new business. Before discussion and action on this item, I will step away from the dais because I have a financial interest in the contract amendment. Additionally, I want to make the public aware of my relationship with Big Dipper Construction. The company is owned by my father. He is not a member of my household, and I have no financial interest in his company.
Thank you, Councilmember Rubio. As presiding officer, I rule in favor of your request to be excused from discussion and vote on AM number 24-60. Also, at the request of the city attorney, item number 9.2.2, discussion on the Title 16 rewrite will be removed from the agenda tonight and placed on the next regular meeting agenda. Are there other changes to the agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Crafton.
I'd like to move 8.4.6, AM number 2459 to new business, please.
Okay. Are there any other? Mr. Graham.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move items 8.4.3, 8.4.4, and 8.4.5 to new business.
Okay.
Matt, what was that again? One more time, please.
3, 4, and 5 under action memorandums.
Okay. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, can I move the AM number, I should say action memorandum, what number, 842, so 2455, the contract, to new business, thanks.
Are there any other changes? Is there objection to the agenda as amended? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as amended. We are now at special orders of the day, and there is one proclamation that I will read. The City of Wasilla Proclamation recognizing International Ataxia Awareness Day. I apologize if the name's not right. Whereas the National Ataxia Foundation, NAF, strives to meet the goals of location of patients and persons at risk and encourage a complete neurological examination to make early and correct diagnosis. And whereas to increase awareness about ataxia, NAF assures that accurate information about ataxia will be available through a variety of educational programs for physicians, allied health officials, and the public. And whereas the National Ataxia Foundation encourages genetic counseling to prevent the spread of these disorders and help affected individuals and families make informed decisions about family planning. And whereas NAF performs research and supports research projects that are designed to better understand pathology and the cause of the ataxias, or to institute new treatments based upon scientific data, helping coordinate research efforts into the cause and early detection of ataxia through existing centers throughout the world. And whereas as many as 150,000 individuals are affected by hereditary and sporadic ataxia in the United States, and whereas ataxia is often a fatal degenerative neurological disorder that affects balance, coordination, and speech. And whereas ataxia can strike anyone at any time without regard to age, gender, race, or creed, and there is no known cure. The only defense is research and prevention through education. Now therefore I, Glenda D. Ledford, Mayor of the City of Wasilla, do hereby proclaim September 25th, 2024 as International Ataxia Awareness Day in the City of Wasilla, and urge all citizens to honor and support those individuals with ataxia and their caregivers in the hope that a cure will soon be found. Dated this 23rd day of September, 2024. If you would come forward, please. Hello, how are you? I have a gift for you. And there's the proclamation. Look right there. Okay?
Where's mine?
We are now at Commission and Agency Reports. Parks and Recreation Commission, Director Bell.
Scott Bell, Recreational Services Director. Parks and Rec Commission met September 11th, and we we did not have a meeting in July, so we had kind of a recap of all the summer programs such as cleanup days, Mayor's Picnic, Music in the Park, and our Parks Passport program. Jess with Parks and Buildings gave an update of a lot of amazing things they did in the parks to maintain everything. And new business was we did have a discussion regarding park history and establishing or reestablishing either some signage that kind of gave a little bit more of the history of the parks and who may or may not have donated it. Started with I Did a Park. We did find that there is a large rock with a plaque associated with that, but we're going to kind of incorporate it into our Parks Passport research to develop a better kind of written history and then look at doing some signage in the park. And our next meeting will be November 13th.
Thank you. And now the Main Street Project update. Director Shaw, please provide an update on the Main Street Project.
So at our last meeting, we were discussing the status of the Main Street project, and so what I've done is coordinated with DOT and asked them to provide what we call a roll plot, so we can see all the drawings together, because I don't think you want to go through 200 pages of drawings tonight, unless that excites you. So what I want to do is start with this 2-page PDF, and what it does is it gives us basically the extents of the project. There is a little bit more work that's outside of this for drainage, but if I zoom out a little bit, and I hope to not make anyone nauseous moving around, but if you can see this first drawing, what you're looking at is the alignment of KGB, and this is the Parks Highway KGB intersection. And then this brings us up, if you can follow my cursor, to the Wasilla Fishhook Main Street intersection. And then if we come down the page, we're at the new Yenlo intersection, which is, it does not exist right now, so that'll be very interesting. And we go back to the south, we cross Parks, we went from Yenlo to Talkeetna, we come up Talkeetna, and then we have this new section that doesn't exist at the moment that will connect into the KGB project. And this is the intersection at the doctor's office at the corner there. So what I'm gonna do is zoom in, and we will just start at the KGB project. We will be connecting at the Palmer-Wasilla KGB intersection. So that's where this new project will tie into. They will have, when the KGB project is done this winter, they will have a tie-in point that this project will pick up on, and it's just off the page here. What I'm going to show you, let me get a better cursor, is how it ties in. So if you were on KGB and you wanted to come into downtown Wasilla, you are going to be in a divided 2-lane highway. So this is denoting an island, and then we reach the first street where you can get into this turn lane and you can turn left, or you can continue into town, or you can turn right into the doctor's office. There's an island that then separates, and the road alignment dives to the, I guess it'd be east. And what you see at this intersection where my cursor is a turn lane that allows a person who wants to turn around from KGB and enter onto Talkeetna so they can go back towards downtown. So if you figured out that you were headed the wrong direction, this is the turn lane that's new that would bring you back into Talkeetna. And you can see there's a sweeping arc that brings us to a connection to the Centaur Road that this cul-de-sac is built right now, but it's blocked off with rocks. It will tie in, and you could turn left onto Centaur if you wanted to cross KGB and then head to like the city shop or the welding shop or the towing place that's over here. If you want to continue into downtown Wasilla, you're now on Talkeetna, and we are passing by the MEA substation that exists, and so we call this the Yenlo Talkeetna Street, and then we enter into what is kind of a dead end right now. We've got the mini storage, we have homes, and then we come to East Susitna. And you can see that there's some improvements planned for that intersection. All along this route are new sidewalks, realigned driveway accesses to these different properties. And then as we pass through East Susitna Avenue, a new lane is opened up, and it provides access across a new railroad crossing at the bottom down here. There is going to be 2 left-hand turn lanes at the new intersection of Talkeetna and Parks. The leftmost is, of course, a turn lane into the Parks Highway, and then the center lane is a left turn or straight onto Yenlo, and then you can make a right-hand turn to get onto Parks. What you'll notice is that since it's a one-way street, there is no left-hand turn lane on Parks to turn onto Talkeetna. You will be guided by this rather large island to continue straight. As we move across onto the Yenlo side, you'll notice it's 2 lanes again. And this large intersection is the Herning intersection, and this is a large driveway that leads to the Safeway complex. This is where we had some feedback for DOT. We know that this crossing is very important for access to the Safeway complex, especially with our senior citizens that might be using the sidewalks. So we've asked them to upgrade the crossing for pedestrian safety to get to Safeway. And you can see that Herning will have quite a significant rebuild as it comes up the hill. This is the clock tower property, so that the grades work as they tie into existing. We move to the Swanson intersection, and this is an important intersection because this will have a new stoplight at it. So this intersection will be controlled by stoplights, and it too receives a pretty substantial rebuild as it ties into existing to make the sight lines and the sidewalks and everything work. And then we move past the end of the Yenlo basically ends at this turnaround here. There's the thrift store, and then there's an apartment complex, and it kind of ends in a parking lot. The new alignment has it continuing up the hill and connecting to Bogard. And there'll be a new light here, of course. And so since this is a one-way street too, you have this arc for right-hand turns from Yenlo onto Bogard, or left-hand turns onto Bogard as well, which is why you see a slightly different geometry at this intersection. Then we'll move up to some driveways that lead to different businesses along here. There is an island that is dividing these, so there will be some differences in how you can, this is the bank here, leaving the bank will be a right-in, right-out experience, as well as the physical therapist up on top of the hill here. That leads us to the realigned intersection of Palmer-Wasilla on our right, Main Street on our left. I'm sorry, Wasilla-Fishhook on our right, Main Street on our left. And then Nelson starts here, of course. Some of the major differences you'll see have to do with drainage. So there are 3 storm drain basins here. This is a storm drain basin. Everything on this side of the road will drain into this, and then what doesn't infiltrate will cross to this next one, and what doesn't infiltrate in that will enter into our storm drain system that heads to Idita Park. And then on the uphill side, kind of by the coffee shop on the way to the police station, there'll be a new infiltration basin that takes drainage from Wasilla-Fishhook and lets some infiltrate, and then it moves into our storm drain system. As we move down Main Street with the traffic flow, you can see there's some substantial sidewalks with a bike lane. There are driveway reconstructions. Nelson, sorry, that's not Nelson. Paulson has a pretty substantial rebuild because of the storm drain connections. So we're connecting all of the back of curbs to the system that runs down Paulson and also connects to the drainage system that ends in Idita Park. And we move further down towards Swanson. You can see that there are driveway accesses for the different businesses. There are pedestrian considerations. And as we know, Swanson is a very busy intersection because of the post office. This intersection of Swanson will also have lights so that traffic can be mitigated and we don't have safety issues, but also that traffic keeps flowing smoothly. We've moved down Main Street to Herning, and there are some turn lanes envisioned at that intersection. And then we move back to the Parks and Main Street intersection where it is only out to Parks. So you see a right-hand turn, or you continue straight onto Main Street or onto KGB, or you can turn left onto the Parks Highway. This brings us to the redesigned crossing at KGB and the railroad. One thing to bring attention to, this crossing is designed for a second parallel track. And that's something that we will be coordinating with the railroad on to see if they have identified the timing at which they think they'll install another crossing. But DOT is designing the capability for parallel track next to the existing track. So that's an important distinction to make. you can see that the Railroad Avenue connection is going to basically remain the same. Right now, it's a right in, right out, but because it's a one-way street, it'll be a left onto KGB. There is a slight alignment on Railroad Avenue that takes us off the screen because of storm drainage. So there is a plan to take all of the storm drainage from this project and route it to Lake Lucille, and it will use some city-owned parcels that are currently overflow boat trailer parking off of Railroad. So that is going to be the drainage plan for this facility. We move our way up KGB, we get to the Susitna Avenue intersection. It'll remain basically the same, it just will have sidewalks now. We get to Park Avenue, it will remain basically the same with sidewalks. Lakeview Street will be about the same. And then we get to Centaur, and right now our experience on Centaur, of course, is it's just turns to the right. There will be the opportunity to turn left to regain access to the inbound lane into downtown. There are, this is a very substantial project for DOT. Their estimate right now is northwards of 50 million. Their schedule is to have these plans finalized by this winter so that it can go out to bid in early spring of next year. So they want to be out to bid by March or April so that construction can start next year. This will be at least a 2-year project, possibly 2.5. And the first work will be will revolve around the utility work that needs to take place. If you've seen what the work out at KGB, the first step is usually to give the NSTARS and GCI and MEA and the rest of the utilities the time that they need to move their facilities out to the edges within the right-of-way, and then the road project will start. We have not seen a schedule, of course, because we don't have a contractor yet. My expectation is that while utilities are being moved, the new roads will probably go under construction. So I expect that the new Yenlo connection up at Bogart will begin, the new Talkeetna extension will begin, because those don't impact traffic. And so you have a lot more control over the timing, but it really depends on whoever the low bidder is that is selected for this project. There is also some drainage that will come down through the parks. I'm going to see if it shows on the other map. Yes, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. So you're probably familiar with the fact that there are some grassy swales by the Safeway store, and then the bank, and then McDonald's. Those will be upgraded slightly, and they will have culverts installed under the driveways so that they will serve as settlement basins, and the final outfall can make it to Wasilla Lake if it needs to. There's also some drainage that will come down Railroad and cross under the parks and have a small outfall to through Nunley Park and through Newcomb Park and outfall into Wasilla Lake if it has to. But the overall storm drain plan is to have as many infiltration basins as possible so that we don't have regular outfalls into our lakes, and also just putting that water back into the aquifer, as is the typical process around the valley. As you can see, the plans are complicated. My staff is reviewing them. We're also working with HDR, who is the project manager for this, as they work through DOT's design standards. One of the facets of this project that has been decided for quite some time is to take some of the above ground electrical services and to put them underground. There's still some more work to be done to coordinate with MEA to decide exactly what that transition looks like, because we don't just have power lines overhead on Main Street and Yenlo. We have them crisscrossing on Herning and a couple other streets, and so we need to work out exactly what that looks like on the boundaries of the projects. That cost is to be borne by the city. So as we finalize those designs and as MEA works through their cost estimations, I'll be bringing you back more information so that we can plan accordingly for that cost. Most of the project, like I said, is being paid for by the state. This was included in the most recent STIP updates. They used a number of 52 million, I believe. I don't know how long that will be accurate. I expect it's probably more than that. So we will need to support the DOT in continuing this project. If funding is a problem, we'll want to join them and ask for more funding through that STIP process and through the MPO. This has been a project that's been on the books for at least 15 years. It suffered some delays in 2021 when funding looked uncertain and a majority of the project team within DOT shuffled around, and so they were without a project manager for quite some time. And so it only restarted about the time I got here in 2022. And then again, many of the team members, especially on DOT today, are brand new. And so there's been a lot of turnover. And so there's been a lot of catching up on the original layouts, designs. Projects like this require a lot of right-of-way acquisition. And so, as you can imagine, the number of private parcels that this project touches means that the right-of-way agents have had their work cut out for them, and they've had a lot of turnover as well. So they feel confident that they will finish up their right-of-way acquisition, but there are a few properties that still need to cross the T's and dot the I's for this project. But they're very cognizant of the timing and the goal to be ready to certify the design, which is what DOT requires because of the federal highways money. They would like to certify this in late February, early March, which then is a gate that they must pass through so they can go out to bid. That's just a quick high-level overview of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Eric. Very good, although brief look at it. So questions on, several questions. Questions on the islands. Are the islands going to be raised concrete curb and gutter islands, or are they going to be depressed islands like we see on the Palmer-Wasilla extension?
Excellent question. What I've seen in the details is that they will be raised and they'll look very similar to what's going in on KGB. I anticipate they'll even be red concrete like on KGB, but the drawings, as I've deciphered them, are raised with a concrete median.
Okay. And will that, I mean, it's my understanding that we're picking up maintenance, which includes snow plowing. Is that going to affect our snow plowing at all? Isn't that the only place that we'll have raised islands in our?
It will, you are correct, we will be receiving maintenance, and so snow plowing is an important consideration. We don't feel that it'll be impactful. It'll just take some practice on our part, but it's not something that we can't manage.
Okay. And then as you come down Susitna there at the corner, or as you come down Yenlo, McKinley there, McKinley and Susitna, DOT's last public meeting on this, it showed a stoplight there. I don't see a stoplight. Am I missing something, or is that just?
The Yenlo Susitna, this one right here?
Yes.
That's an excellent question. I have not seen a stoplight. I could definitely verify that for you.
Because there was considerable discussion about the fire department responding to the condominiums at the end of Susitna there, and the additional time that it would take to go around and down Roberts versus, just come down Susitna there. If there's a stoplight, then they can control it with their optics, but the additional, but it would be interesting to see that. And then where you have Railroad Avenue coming across there, you talked about a storm drainage, which appears to be to the east then of Yinlo, could we not use the pedestrian tunnel there as opposed to having to bore under the railroad and under the highway to get to that drainage?
Excuse me for the interruption, but Mr. Johnson has joined us at 6:29. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, you can see the drainage right there, which I don't believe exists, whereas the pedestrian tunnel does exist and is rarely used for pedestrians, mostly used for nefarious.
It mostly flooded.
Right.
I believe that one of the things we want to do is they wanted to access this area, of course, to infiltrate as much water as possible. This is an overflow if we need it. My desire is to work with the DOT through the MPO and have them support us in the future with fixing the tunnel so that it can be used for its intended purposes. I think it could be successful if we had some more support. So I'd rather not cause more flooding. I'd rather have DOT come back and join us in a new project and amend some of the issues that are stopping us from using it right now.
Okay, I have an offline discussion on that. And then you talked about the credit union. They're a right in, right out based on the one-way nature of Main Street.
Back up by Bogard, that credit union?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How would that be right in if that's a one-way street? Wouldn't it have to be left in and left out?
So
You mentioned
when
right in, right out.
Yeah, so there's two entrances, right? There's this one. So this would be a right in to get in this entrance and a right out. Or you could go through their parking lot and you could turn right out of here. There's no good left turn. You want to turn left here and you couldn't turn, I guess that would be left in, left out. You're right.
Okay.
These are left in, left out. That's right in, right out.
Okay, yeah, I was curious. I thought, wow, that's.
I'll probably
all those
turn
years, I
right the
thought
first
traffic
time.
was going the other way. So not unusual for me to be incorrect, so that's fine. Okay, yeah, some things there. I would like to have an offline discussion with you about that tunnel
Absolutely.
sometime. Thank you. Thank you, Madam
Any
Mayor.
further questions?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Johnson?
my apologies for being late. Eric, so if you refresh my memory on that slide there, where is the street lights going, or the stop signs going to be?
Where are the stoplights going to be? Yeah, that was a question I was trying to figure out which volume it's in. It's in volume 4 of 4, so let me grab that really quick and I'll walk you through those because I think that's a very impactful difference. So in general, there are no new stoplights on the south side of town. So on the Talkeetna and the KGB side, there are no new stoplights. And I'm looking at the Susitna Avenue, they do not have a stoplight there, Mr. Graham. So where we do have new stoplights are Yenlo and Swanson. So let me move over to that. So here's Yenlo, and here's Swanson. There'll be a stoplight there. There'll be a stoplight at Yenlo and Bogard. We already, of course, have a stoplight at Main and Wasilla Fishhook and Nelson. But there'll also be a stoplight here at Main and Swanson. And then that brings us to the Parks Highway intersection. So there will technically be 3 new stoplights if you count both of the Swansons and the Bogard in Yenlo.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Eric, would it be 4 if we count the Parks Highway and Yenlo 1/Talkeetna? 4,
Yeah,
right there,
that's
okay.
true.
2 questions for you. One, could we get an electronic copy of this?
Yeah.
Is there one that's floating around that we can?
Yeah, this PDF I can
Okay,
email.
that'd be
to.
great. It'd be easier. I can scroll around and look
Yeah,
at it. I'd like to-
absolutely.
I see Alina shaking her head. Looks like she wants one too.
I'll send it to the clerk.
Yeah.
and-
If that'd be great.
Yep.
Second question for you was our own utilities when it comes to water and sewer. Have we started looking through and seeing if there's anywhere in here where it benefits us that we go, hey, we're missing it, we could add it at this time, expansion wise?
That's a good question. Expansion, I'll double check that. We are definitely investigating, failure locations. Where are we concerned about the age? Where do we think there's leaks? We've had Alaska Rural Water come out with their, leak detection, equipment and abilities. And so we've been placing sensors around, to collect data during the night when there's less traffic to figure out, hotspots that we're concerned about leaks. We have found a couple. And so our intention is to attack those aggressively and figure out if what's going on. And then based on, the project does have some realignment of water lines that the state will provide. And so we're making comments right now to say, well, maybe you should go further, or while we're at it, since you're gonna cut two ends of this, let's make the center better for us in the future. So those are comments we're putting together right now as we digest mountains of paper.
Perfect. That was along the lines of expansion. That's also what I was gonna ask, was just really looking at it and saying, hey, what can we do here? Because I know that's a big project that we're working on undertaking, so.
We do not want to miss the opportunity to fix it because we don't want to dig it up.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you. Once again, getting back to stoplights, I mentioned during our earlier questions there that the DOT's last public meeting, which was like 90% plan, I don't know what they do like 35 and then 90 or something, included many comments about the need for a stop line at Susitna and McKinley there. Can we ask them to reschedule some sort of public meeting to discuss that? You know, I mean, right now, the only disadvantage I see to that stoplight being there is the cost of installing it. And if the cost of installing it, you know, puts citizens at risk by not having it installed, I think we should have that discussion. I mean, it's their decision in the final thing, but it seems that many of the comments were perhaps disregarded when the public at that public event was told otherwise.
I'd be happy to talk to DOT about that again and just get clarity on why it doesn't look like it was carried forward. The other thing I want to do is just verify that I'm correct. So that's Swanson. Yeah, so I'm correct, the drawings are not showing that, so I'll touch base with them and we can set something up.
That would be good, because the last color drawings that came out from DOT that were posted in that condominium neighborhood showed that stoplight there.
Okay.
So there's
Some
either
more
a
information
disconnect
sharing.
in the need there or a lack of communication. Either one of those needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, we are now at public hearing, and there are no public hearings on the agenda tonight. And so we are at persons to be heard. It's the time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Additionally, over the last year, the city of Wasilla has routinely had members of the public attend and read excerpts from novels, some of which involve sexual content and or descriptions of incest or domestic violence that are not intended for children under the age of 14 and may be triggering to listeners and viewers. For those of you with young children viewing or listening to this meeting, or who may be triggered by the descriptions of incest or domestic violence, please be aware we are now entering public comment, and you may want to mute the video or temporarily exit the meeting. We will notify the public when public comment has ended, and council is moving on to the next item on the agenda. For those of you participating in public comment tonight, I respectfully ask you to remember that our attendees, viewers, and listeners may be under the age of 14 or victims of domestic violence and are not choosing to read the passages that you are choosing to read to them. We have the sign-up sheet, and the first one is Vicki Feo. Please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name, and if you're city residents, and your comments are limited to 3 minutes.
My name is Vicki Feo, and I am a city resident, and I have a head cold, so you have to kind of. Last week, I provided you guys all a packet of information concerning code compliance complaint 24-00246. Hopefully, you've had time to review it. I'm only going to give a brief summary. A couple years ago, Tina from the planning department provided me with information that the apartment next door to us, our lots are only 100 feet wide, and we're zoned R1. And the house next to us has a house on the lake. It's on Lake Lucille. And then behind that is a garage that the prior owner put an apartment upstairs. He never had a permit for that, and it's not legal in an R1 to have a house and an apartment. Anyway, let me get back to where I was going. Anyway, because of the whole VRBO or whatever they're called that came up a couple years ago on Selena Lane, we became more aware of the code restrictions and what has to be done and what cannot be done in our neighborhood. Anyway, I notified the owner next door and explained to him to contact Tina for more info. He did stop renting the apartment for a while. Then last fall, a new tenant moved in. And in April, we had a meeting with the planning department about code violations. They recommended that we file a complaint. So we filed the complaint. June 5th, the code compliance officer issued notice there were 6 code violations that needed to be corrected by June 3rd. Three of the violations were for permit or business license, and 3 were actually land use code violations. Nothing has been corrected to this date for the land use code violations. Our property rights have been violated to the city's inaction and the claim that we filed. This has caused duress and stress in our family, and I believe that the city owes us $900 a day since July 3rd until the land use codes are corrected. May 22nd, I was told there was a meeting with the mayor, chief of police, and city attorney to be sure all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed before the code compliance officer actually went out to the property. And nothing has been done. That's all, I guess. I only have 12 seconds left, so.
And next on the sign-up list is John Feo. Please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name, and if you are a city resident, your comments are limited to 3 minutes.
I'll take it my hat, be a little bit shiny, but thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Name is John Feo, and I'm a city resident at Lake Lucille as well as my wife. Just to summarize what the wife had already said, we were educated with the RBO, and ever since then we got educated. We'd been violated 2 years prior to that while the gentleman next door was renting. He had dogs, they had dogs. We put up a fence to secure our yard. He didn't want to participate. He rented for 2 years straight, which was against the ordinance of R1. Another gentleman moved in who lived with him. He was operating a business out of there for several years. I reached out and told them that they were out of compliance. They thought they could do what they wanted since they bought that property, regardless of the ordinances. This went on. I told them things had to change. I didn't expect him to move out and make the change in the winter. I gave him an opportunity. He failed. We came and filed a complaint. Since then, they were doing a double jeopardy on allowing a caretaker aspect to live in this apartment, which is classified as a storage unit over a garage, like Vicky stated, wasn't never permitted. I've got a real goat rope going on there. And the business is still operating in and out of R1. They took advantage and helped himself to RR. The owner probably said and to his friend, that's fine, you can do what you want. Went back there and cleared a pad, put a Connex up, got all kind of amenities, and started a junkyard. We gotta be faced with it. Trucking mud in and out on Selena Lane. And we've had enough. Like Vicki said, we've been under duress and we think we've been violated. And I'd like to see the city finally step up and do something. And we've been getting led on and led on and led on, and we have not seen a change since we filed and came to forth in April. We're almost in October now. How long does it take? What they've done is they gave them permits for stuff they'd already violated in the past and allowed that with no fines. And a business is still operating out there and they're doing a double tenant aspect and using a caretaker as being able to stay in that storage unit when they've got a big enough house, they can all stay in that house. And there's no reason to have this continue. So I wish you guys would sit down and really review Vicky's whole testimony. We thank you.
And the next is Bradley Palmer. Please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name, and if you're a city resident, and your comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Bradley Palmer. I am a new city resident. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize to the city of Wasilla for having to deal with neighborly squabbles when you guys have a lot more important things to deal with. Secondly, I applaud the city for doing what the rest of the state, or doing the opposite of what the rest of the state and our country, unfortunately, is going through. With the in regards to overreach of the government. Not only has the city done an admirable job with its fiscal responsibility and staying within your 2.5% sales tax, you've also rolled back authoritarian codes and everything, code restrictions that restrict private property rights to those who live and work within the city limits. This is not only a boon to private citizens, it's also helps promote entrepreneurship, which in turn is healthy for the city coffers and therefore the people who live in the city. Lastly, I would like to thank my neighbors, the Fayos, for bringing to light the fact that me and Joshua were not originally in compliance with city code. Their comments and concerns to the city were able to bring me and my brother, Joshua, into compliance with city code. So I would like to thank them. And that's all I got. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Next is Senator David Wilson. Please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name, and if you're a city resident, and your comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, this is David Wilson. I'm also your senator for District N, and yes, I am a city resident. Just wanted to go over a couple of items here just for sort of calendaring for events. To just make the general public aware. Obviously, we have the Emergency Preparedness Expo this weekend, the 28th, at the Menard Center from 10 to 3. And I know Madam Mayor does a wonderful job on her radio updates on these things too. Just want to bring more attention to some of these items. I know the city is hosting, along with the Chamber and the Borough, the Mat2 Fall Economic Summit on the 15th of October. It's not me. At the Menard Center, at the Evangelos as well.
And we all know that you have an ongoing city election going on. That's important to get folks out to turn out to vote for that, because that helps just a myriad of different issues that we won't go into tonight. But I'll just say congratulations now, because I think that they'll at least get one vote each for themselves, that candidates that are running. So for that, and that's obviously going on. Early voting is happening now until the 1st of October. And I know the Matsu Borough, hopefully folks completed their road safety survey for the Matsu Borough, so they can start looking at road safety issues as we're continuing. It looks like all the cities, the state, and the boroughs are all looking toward a lot more road improvements as our population is going up, and it's always wonderful to see the collaboration that is ongoing. And if our office can help in any way in terms of the couplet, please don't hesitate to reach out if there are any problems. But it looks like you guys are coordinating well, and thank you, Eric, in the city for getting on top and having these sort of meetings and public forums so people can participate in those as well. Other than that, our office is open for business, and if you don't see me, you normally see Ms. Johnson, who's sitting in the audience behind me. I know that she attends this meeting and the Planning Commission meetings to keep our office up to date on many various items. We're working with folks now, working on the cities, we're working with the borough and a couple of other interested parties on working on squatters situations and trying to have a definition for squatters versus tenant, and looking at trying to sponsor some of that, and also looking at either derelict properties, or some people call them blighted properties, and looking at ways that we can still uphold the property owner's rights to those properties, but still make sure that they're not a nuisance or a safety hazard or inhabitant of criminal activity. So we're looking at ways that we can try to come up with some type of statutes and regulations to help empower local municipalities to enforce some of those rules and regulations. And with that, we'll end. And thank you guys again. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, sir. And persons to be heard is now closed.
Excuse
And
me. I didn't have a chance to sign on that. I came in about 2 minutes late.
then you'll have a chance at the end of the meeting. If your name is not on this sheet, then you don't get to speak now.
I came in like a minute late.
So we are now on to the consent agenda. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the titles of the items for approval under the consent agenda by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have the regular meeting minutes of August 26, 2024, and 5 introductions up for public hearing on October 14th, 2024. The first ordinance is ordinance serial number 2431, authorizing the removal of 2 undeveloped parcels identified as Lot 1, Block 1, and Lot 1, Block 2, Yummo Square subdivision, totaling approximately 4.46 acres from planned unit development number 05-01, returning the zoning of the parcels back to commercial, downtown overlay district, and amending the official zoning map of the city of Wasilla to reflect the change. The next ordinance is ordinance serial number 2432, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by appropriating $160,000 from the water fund balance to the oversized water mainland fund for the city's portion of the mainline extension project. Ordinance serial number 2433, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by transferring $40,878 from the airport equipment fund to the Public Works Utilities Replacement Vehicle Fund for the purpose of purchasing utility fleet vehicles. The next ordinance is ordinance serial number 2434, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by appropriating $250,000 from the general fund balance to the train depot fund for continued work on the train depot site improvements. Ordinance serial number 2435, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by transferring $26,798 from the 3 existing funds to the Public Works Sewer Vac Pumper Fund for the purpose of purchasing a replacement sewer vac truck. There are no resolutions recommended for approval, and there is only one action memorandum remaining on the consent agenda for approval. The first one, the only one is AM number 2454, approving the city council regular meeting schedule for calendar year 2025. And those are the items on tonight's consent agenda, Madam Mayor.
And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved as read. So we are now at unfinished business. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the title of the ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's ordinance serial number 2426, amending Wasilla Municipal Code, section 2.04.035 to increase council member compensation for attendance at council meetings irrespective of the meeting type, and amending subsection 2.04.060B to remove the mayor's authority to call special council meetings. This has been postponed from the August 12th, 26th, and September 9th council meetings, and there is a motion to adopt pending.
Okay, thank you. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I brought forward this ordinance several meetings ago. I've missed the last couple of meetings, and at one of the meetings we didn't have a full council. So I thought since this deals specifically with the council, that all the council members should be here to have a chance to weigh in on this. So essentially a couple of different items here to look at. Number one, it says increasing council member compensation for attendance in council meetings, irregardless of the meeting type. You know, the current code, specifies the rate at which the council is paid per meeting. That number hasn't changed in quite a few years, as we made a big adjustment this last year on how city employees are paid, and to bring things into kind of in line with how things are going. This pretty much just follows that. It's about a 15% raise, a little less than 15% raise, which was what we afforded the non-represented employees, which seemed to bring them in line with the represented employees as well. The second thing here talks about irrespective of the meeting type. Right now, special meetings are paid at a different rate than our regular meetings. Special meetings typically are very specialized in their content and tend to run longer than the regular meetings. So under previous administration, special meetings typically were kind of short meetings, so it made sense, and we even had a provision in there where if there's a special meeting and it lasts less than an hour, the council doesn't get paid, which I don't have any objection with that. But since we tend to want to do things at special meetings now, dealing with budget, we've dealt with all sorts of things. I think we had 16 special meetings last fiscal year. It's only appropriate that if you're doing all that work, which often exceeds the amount of work that you do for a regular meeting, that compensation should be the same. Also, removing the mayor's authority to call special council meetings. Currently, the mayor or two council members can call special council meetings. The meetings of the council are meetings of the council and are held to deal with business of the council. So what this does, this just says the council will decide when special meetings are appropriate and go from there. The mayor still has the authority to call an emergency meeting of the council. There's no change to that, but having an inordinate number of special meetings is just wrong. You signed up for this position with some expectations as to the amount of time and how that time would be allocated throughout the year, and how you can work with others here at the dais to adjust that time. So what this does is just makes the special meetings will be called by the council instead of by the mayor. So That's kind of an overview there and the philosophy behind it. Thank you.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor?
Ms. Velock?
I wanted to comment, we've had a lot of meetings. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold too. We had our typical budget special meetings. We also had some Title 16 meetings. And I think the Title 16s are kind of unusual. I think it's been kind of our doing that Title 16 has grown like this into our special meetings. We did task Holly to rewrite, and she did that. I think she spent hours and hours and hours and hours and months, and then brought it back for us to review and look at all the things that we had asked for. We were to look and see, did she do what we wanted her to? But we have been like line item, going through this line by line. We have been spending hours and paying our city attorney hours and hours and hours. And at the end, we're just wordsmithing. I don't believe we've even changed the meaning of anything. So a lot of this special, long meetings is our doing. Like definitions, I think we spent an hour on the definition of a church. And I think our city attorney is quite capable of, with the tools available to her and her expertise in doing definitions of words personally. So anyway, with that, hopefully it won't be as long going forward. Also, when it comes to compensation, I'm not against up in the compensation, and that is for both meetings. When it comes to the mayor's authority to call a special meeting, I would ask for that to be removed. I have served under 2 mayors, and I have not seen, witnessed, or known of them to abuse that authority. So I would not be voting for that. So that's it.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. I think with some of the special meeting talk and the numbers, I had Crystal print off the most recent 3 years. So last year, or fiscal year 23, we had 16 special meetings, but I had it clarified the total number of special meetings and then separated out how many of those special meetings actually lasted an hour, just so we could clarify the difference between how many are. And you can see we've had at least 8 meetings every year for the last 3 years. And of the meetings that we've had, which is in pushing 30, I think, 12 of them were times that the council showed up and didn't get compensated for it, because the meetings did not last an hour. I like everything, most of everything on here. I think this right here is speaking to the aspect of making sure the council's getting compensated like it's a regular meeting, so there's no differentiating. I think it saves our clerks headaches too, having to go back and count the meetings and was this an hour, was this not an hour? But the part that I'm hesitant on is completely removing the mayor's authority to call special meetings. I think there should still be a number that's allotted in there, but I think what needs to be done is that special meetings need to be approved by the council, especially beyond 8. So after there's that number's been met, something needs to come before the council. Generally, it's an AM. We saw tonight we had an AM where the clerk puts forward our calendar, so we've basically approved our calendar for the coming year. This way, it brings it back to the council. But again, the mayor has the ability to call the emergency meetings. But there's also things that it just makes it easier if they're done in special meetings. And it ends up taking longer if we're having to bring every single one to the council. It also reminds the mayor too, saying, hey, I'm limited on how many of these I can call, so I'm going to use them a little bit more sparingly if we know that there's a limited number before the mayor has to bring it to the council. That would be my thing is I'm just hesitant on removing the mayor's authority altogether. I think it's something that should have a number capped on it. I like the 8 number. I think it's been working. They've somewhat been floating around there. Obviously, this year's a unique year, but I also know looking forward, we also had in our budget this year, I believe it's Title III was looking at a rewrite, which is our Human Resources Department. We've got our comprehensive plan on the horizon as well, and that's probably going to warrant some special meetings as well, so that we can really hone into that in the future as well. So I know that we're going to be having more special meetings. I do think they are useful at times because it allows us to have a very directed discussion instead of us taking sometimes way too many meetings. I mean, look at what we're doing with Title 16 right now by adding it to our calendar. I mean, sometimes we only get to spend an hour to an hour and a half on it, when if we had a special meeting where we could spend 2-3 hours on it, we could knock this thing out a lot quicker, knowing it. But at the same time, we don't want to overburden our calendars. So I think there's a balance to the special meetings that we can work out, but I'm for everything except removing it in its entirety. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Ms. Velock, would you like to make a motion to remove?
Yes. Yes, I make a motion to remove, let's see, the part of the mayor's authority to call special council meetings.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to remove the mayor's authority to call special council meetings. Is there objection to the motion?
Madam Mayor, just a clarification. I mean, currently the ordinance being voted on reads, special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the council. So I believe what we're trying to do is to try to add the phrase of the mayor or at least 2 members of the council after the word call. So it would return to its original. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Correct. So basically on section 3, what I understood is Councilmember Vila wants it to remain, it is currently written in code without the strike through.
Yes.
So it will read, special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor or at least 2
Yes.
at least 2 members. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Is there objection to the motion?
I
May
object.
we have a discussion, Madam Mayor? For the motion to make the change? So we have an amendment, is essentially what we've got right now. May we have a discussion on that amendment?
Sure.
Very good, Madam Mayor. I basically am much more aligned to Ian's idea, okay? To just simply have it the way that it is right now. I feel that I have had no voice because I'm not one of the 2 members that have ever been asked about a special meeting. So Nikki, I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name. You have been because you were the deputy mayor, so you always were in the know. I have not been. And because of that, I felt like I had no voice in the special meetings. So I really go along with Ian's proposal. We'll keep it as it is for 8, but beyond that, I would like to have my voice at least being heard. And right now, I feel that my voice is not being heard. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Ian?
Thank you, Mayor. I will say as well, in what we've seen in the past, or at least my time that I've been here, is the clerk has done a very good job of at least giving us a heads up. If you look at the budget meetings, we technically had documentation in front of us that we agreed to set those special meetings. The Title 16 ones, which a lot of us are probably forefront of our mind, that happened in the February, March timeframe, I would have liked to see that come before the council, something like that, something of that nature. And I've had a conversation with our clerk about it, and I think overall she's done a really good job at doing that, but I still think capping it, because then it just says, hey, special meetings are supposed to be special, not just another type of regular meeting that can be called. So if I could amend the motion on the floor, I don't know how we'd read this. I don't know if
May I make a
Holly's here.
suggestion, Mr. Crafton?
Yes, go ahead.
3B there, perhaps what you might want to say is a maximum of 8 special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor.
That's probably what I'd be looking at is a line, verbiage like that, saying, and then any special meetings beyond that would be required to be, could be at the call of the council, or approved through AM at a meeting. So the mayor technically could still call the special meeting. She would just have to have it brought forward as an AM to the council. So the council would be approving it, or anything beyond 8 is called by 2 members of the council. So it still makes special meetings of the council, but anything before 8 that year could be called by the mayor, if that makes sense.
Let me remind you, the council, that you guys have, even though it says the mayor has called under her authority, but you guys have had special meetings on the budget, and then when we started the Title 16 rewrite, the attorney, it was like, what does the council want to see? And we went over and over and over about definitions. So a lot of these special meetings have been, not just because you had one, you had a continuation. And a continuation. So,
That's for sure.
in my opinion, the council has said, we're going to continue this meeting, so that is on them. Nikki?
Yes. Oh, I didn't even know mine's on, but
Oh,
you know
sorry.
what, since it's on, I'll talk. Like I said, my voice is really scratchy, but I guess I wanted to know what brought this up. Like I said, I haven't known an issue. I didn't know that, I wasn't aware the mayor was calling all these special meetings. I guess I'm just, maybe I'm not in the know. Maybe I need educated on, maybe some history on why this was put in here. Because, like I said, I haven't ever known of an issue with either mayor that I've served with. So that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Felak. What brought this up is the extraordinary number of special meetings that we've had this year and with the mayors that I have served under this. We've had certainly more special meetings this year. Not that they haven't been warranted, it's just that the council hasn't had any say in when those meetings are. If we, as a council, decide to have a special meeting, we'll decide what that date and what that time will be, as opposed to it being dictated to us. Why have a special meeting when there's 2 of us that we know can't be here? Just because there is a quorum doesn't mean that it's the best idea for a special meeting. But if I may suggest to Ms. Velak that she withdraw her amendment, and if she did so, I would propose an amendment that says, up to 8 special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor. Additional special meetings may be called by the council. So that kind of incorporates what Mr. Crafton was talking about, kind of incorporates what you were talking about, leaves the door open for the whatever additional meetings, but it just means that the council can then say, yeah, we can't meet on the 23rd, sorry, we're gonna have to do it on the 25th. Does that work for the administration?
Mayor, that's what I kind of understand what's always happened. Before a special meeting, it's usually the clerk saying, does this day work for everyone? What times? Because remember when she was setting up Saturdays, we did not want any Saturdays. I still don't see, these special meetings were us continuing and it has been Title VIII. I guess I don't know why we have to have the mayor have a limit. I don't think the mayor has abused that. That's what I'm trying to understand. Is there examples of the mayor calling all these meetings and we have no input? Like I said, I remember it's the city clerk saying we need a special meeting, or do you guys want a special meeting? I always remember getting the input. I don't remember ever just having them thrown at me. I don't, and maybe I'm not remembering it right. I don't know, but I guess I just want some feedback. Has the mayor, I guess when we have these special meetings with budget, and Title 16, is that just considered that the mayor called them? Because it was administration saying, okay, it's budget time, so is that we're just saying that's from the mayor? That's what I want to know. Is it more administration with the mayor calling? That's what I want to understand.
Administration is the mayor. Anything that happens
Right.
with these people happens at the behest of the mayor or with the
Okay.
knowledge of the mayor. I mean, the buck stops there. That's kind of the way that works. So if finance think there needs to be a special meeting, she can't do that, but she can go to the mayor and say, hey, we need to have something to work this out, and then the mayor can decide whether that's worthy of a special meeting. So I don't know if that
Yeah, that
helps you or
helps.
not.
That does help. So like this, all our special meetings with budget that we have every year, that is considered administration and the mayor calling those special meetings, correct? Is that what I understand? Okay. Okay, I understand that.
Okay, further discussion.
So I would ask for a rereading of the amendment as it currently stands from the clerk.
Madam Deputy
The
Clerk.
amendment that's pending on the floor is Nikki's. We're going to be removing the strike through on 31 and 32 to leave it as is in the code. To read, special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor or at least 2 members of the council.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Madam Mayor,
yes.
I'd like to make an amendment to that. I'd like to add that no more than 8 special meetings of the council may be called by the mayor.
Okay, Ian, if you're in a budget discussion and we've already had 8 meetings, and then you're saying, all I got to do for administration to do an AM, how many meetings does that take? How much longer is it gonna be before you can go back to your budget discussion? So you guys need to consider all this stuff.
And I have with that, Mayor. So to use your example, like when we were talking about the meetings that happened in February and March with the council and how we dragged some things out because we had some questions. That was the purpose of those meetings, though, was for us to have discussion. But when we needed those extra meetings, at that point, to me, that's not the mayor calling the meeting, because we're sitting here at the table going, oh, we need more time. We're calling the next meeting at that point. That's the way I read
On
it.
this paper, this is special meetings that administration has called. Nowhere does it say the council has called any of these.
I understand, and I think going forward, that's what we're gonna see as a difference, is so we'll start seeing, was this called by the mayor, or was this called by the council? I'd like to make an amendment to limit the mayor's special meetings to 8, and 2 members of the council can call an unlimited number of meetings, special meetings.
Is there further discussion?
You made an amendment to an amendment. I think that needs to be seconded. Is that correct?
It does.
Okay, I second that.
Okay. Madam Deputy Clerk, please reread the amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No more than 8 special meetings may be called by the mayor, is the secondary amendment, correct, Councilmember Crafton? So we'll vote on that
Okay.
first. Or you will vote on it.
Okay. Is there any objection to Mr. Crafton's motion to limit the mayor's ability to 8 meetings?
I object. Just because I feel like I need, to me, to the mayor, I still don't understand while we're doing this. I have not seen the abuse, I have not seen where, because no one wants to really come to a special meeting unless they have to. I just think we're adding more, just more rules where maybe they're not needed. And maybe I can be convinced different, but I still don't see the point, I guess, of changing it.
Okay, roll call vote. Madam Deputy Mayor?
All right, this is on Councilmember Crafton's secondary amendment, which states no more than 8 special meetings may be called by the mayor.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Can we have further discussion on this? I believe we're at a discussion point. I just want to speak to Ms. Velock there. I think a lot of the intent behind this is to bring it forward to the council so that we have an opportunity to actually think about when special meetings are happening and have something put in front of us. And so we can have a discussion at that time as to when those special meetings were. Because I know when we scheduled those February and March meetings for Title 16, we didn't have the opportunity for discussion. And I want to say some of the council members were missing. Did we have the opportunity to say no? Yes, but the discussion was not there. And the understanding that I'm getting from Mr. Graham's intention here is to be able to bring it to the council and say, hey, these meetings we're the ones meeting. These meetings are for us. Let's talk about them before we schedule all of these meetings. Are we still gonna see some that just come before us, like the budget meeting that happens every year? We do the was it the fiscal planning one that happens usually in December where we go over goals and initiatives, or maybe that's January, I can't remember. There's some that just happen all the time that we know that come from the administration. But the goal is to have a conversation from what I understand about it. And that's what I would have liked, is to have more talk so we could have had a moment to all look at our calendars and go, hey, no, we're gonna move this one, we're gonna move that one before we put it on there. And then turns out, 2 council members aren't gonna be there, we barely have a quorum. Now we spend a 2-hour-long meeting discussing something, and at the next meeting, one of those council members that weren't there now show back up and have all these questions, and we feel like we're going back in time, which I did see that happen this year, where we saw somebody missing, they came back and they say they wanna review what we just did because they didn't have that opportunity to come to that meeting because they had a prior engagement.
Mr. Crafton, anything can be tabled.
Madam Mayor? Yeah, and I do remember that too, Ian. But I don't think we're going to get out of that scenario, personally. We're going to have times when someone that can't be at the meeting, and it's just going to happen. And I personally just don't remember being, and maybe Mr. Johnson's right, maybe I just happened to be in the know, maybe I was at the meeting. I just feel like they were always discussed before we had a special meeting. We were the ones who wanted all these Title 16 meetings. It wasn't anybody else. We wanted to go through it with a fine-tooth comb for some reason. So I just don't see how this will change that. I just think it's adding more rules and limitations where it's not needed. I don't see that.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Nikki, I just want to clarify something. I would apologize if you felt that okay. I realize sometimes that I come across a little bit too strong, but
I know you
that's
well
just.
enough. I sat
Okay,
right by
very
you
good.
all that.
Thank you.
All right. Further discussion? Hearing none. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is everyone clear on the secondary amendment that you'll be voting on? Okay. Councilmember Cottle, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crafton?
Yes.
Councilmember Vlock?
No.
Councilmember Rubio?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, the secondary amendment passes with Councilmember Cottle, Graham, Johnson, Crafton, and Rubio in support and Vlock opposed. Now we're back to the primary amendment.
Could you read the primary amendment, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. The primary amendment is to section 3. It's leaving the code as written to read, special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor or at least 2 members of the council. Be left as is.
Okay.
However, that was amended, so could you read what it says that the amendment
It was
passed?
The amendment passed, so the entire thing would read if the primary amendment passes. Special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor or at least 2 members of the council. No more than 8 special meetings may be called by the mayor. That's what I had down. Is that incorrect?
Is that what we're looking for, Mr. Crafton?
I was adding an amendment so that it would limit it to 8. So I think at this point, from what I understand, is because your original amendment or your original ordinance here completely got rid of the mayor's ability. I mean, at this point, if it fails, then my amendment would kind of be, I don't know if the word null and void would, because it wouldn't make sense at that point. So,
What I'm understanding is
Would it be
Special-
easier if we read it such that up to 8 special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor? Would that align with what you were saying, as
Yes.
opposed to adding a phrase in the middle?
or after it is what it
you
sounds like.
could,
You're adding it. You added a sentence, so it sounds like you're just adding the verbiage directly in there.
Well, I'm just trying to make it clear what so do we still have, or at least 2 members of the council? I'm confused here, Madam.
Do we have Holly online?
yes.
Would Holly be able to?
Holly? Are you still online?
Yes, I am. What's the question? I swear I'm paying attention, but I just could not follow it.
Okay, let Deputy Clerk Sarah read to you and explain to you what has transpired over this amendment to the amendment to the amendment to the amendment.
Okay. Holly, this is what I understand. We are on ordinance serial number 2426.
Yeah.
Section 3. There was a motion from Councilmember Vlock to leave the code as written. So we would remove the strike through on lines 31 and 32. Then Councilmember Crafton called a secondary amendment. He wanted to add the words, no more than 8 special meetings may be called by the mayor. The council voted on the secondary amendment, so no more than 8 special meetings may be called by the mayor passed. Now we're back up to the primary amendment, which would leave the code as written on lines 31 and 32.
been amended.
Yes, okay.
Okay, then, Councilmember Crafton, would you read your amendment back into the record, how you modified Nikki's amendment? Because I didn't catch that. I didn't catch how you modified her amendment.
Madam Clerk,
Yes.
typically with an amendment, there's an add and strike through. So we're gonna add this verbiage and we're gonna
Yes.
strike through whatever verbiage. So since it wasn't stated that way, perhaps Mr. Crafton could restate his amendment, and then without objection, then it would hold. So it would be a little bit more clear. We're gonna add the words or the phrase at a certain point. I think that's where I'm kind of stuck right now. Where did we add that? And where did you want to add that?
Okay, until this is figured out, we'll take an ad ease at 7:30.
Crafton?
It's like 50 pieces of the blue.
So it seemed to me you were trying to add something here.
I think that's what
What happened now, got added there, so
It's me.
there are at least two.
Okay.
Okay, is everybody ready to vote? Is there objection to the motion?
So we're back to just Nikki's
Nikki's amendment.
in its pure form, that's not amended.
As,
As amended.
Yes, so,
Can I clarify
Mine
what
says
happened?
written. Mine
Let-
says written, right?
yes.
he is
Okay,
taking
let
that.
the deputy clerk do her job.
Yes.
Okay, so what I have with the amendments being passed, special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor or at least 2 members of the council. No more than 8 special meetings may be called by the mayor. Yeah, that's what just passed. So that's how it is right now. So now,
For the question.
Roll call vote.
there wasn't an objection.
There's no objection
There
to the
was-
motion?
No, there wasn't.
Okay, motion passes.
Now that we have to vote, if there's no other amendments. But I think Ian might have his lights on.
Okay, now we are voting on the ordinance as amended. Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Ian?
I'd like to ask our attorney a question here. So currently now, it's gonna read that 2 members of the council can call a special meeting. Previously, we almost had it at basically, special meetings could only be at the call of the council, which I would take that as 4 people. Holly, would it be an OMA violation if we were to have it so that it took 4 council members to call a special meeting?
Yes, or it could be. And that's one of the reasons why you often see the 2 council members, because they're trying to avoid the polling of council members on any issue. Even though that's a housekeeping issue, it still would be a technical violation.
Okay, so at this point, there's a reason why it needs to stay 2 at that point, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's definitely advisable. There may be some way that we could navigate around that with the city clerk and the way that you structure notices, but I don't, without going there, I think 2 is your best bet. Councilmember Crafton, there's one other thing I'd like council to consider when you're voting on the main ordinance. A lot of municipalities will create an effective date after the upcoming election, just so that there's an opportunity for at least some of those council member seats to be voting on a compensation increase that will not directly affect them, right? So it's that, that concept. So just, if council members want to consider an amendment to the effective date, making it effective upon, or I guess it could just be effective upon the end of the current term, or even just a date certain that the clerk picks that is outside, after the election and the swearing in.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I move amendment number 2. Amendment number 2 would take line 32 and delete the words least 2 members and add the words in place of that, the call. So it would now read, or at the call of the council.
Madam Mayor, I'll second that motion.
Make sure the clerk does that.
Yes, so it would read, special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor or at the call of the council.
Is there further discussion?
Mayor, does that amendment preserve the 8 meeting limitation placed on the mayor?
Yes, it does, Holly.
So with that amendment, my only concern is there is nobody, so there's no entity or combination of individuals that can call the meeting without at least having a meeting. So council will be able to call a special meeting when you guys are convened, right? And you can do that in advance. And so I don't have a problem with that. But the mayor is, when the mayor has the authority to call these meetings, if she was outside of the 8 meetings, something, important needed to be discussed but didn't rise to the level of an emergency meeting, and council didn't have a meeting scheduled in the interim, then the council would be foreclosed from having a meeting. So that's something to think about. That's unusual. We don't see that type of limitation placed on a council very often. So I just want you to think about it.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Probably a question here for Mr. Graham. Just so I'm understanding this would basically mean that the only way a special meeting could be called by the council would be an AM coming before council at, my guess, a regular meeting. And then we would vote on it and approve it, which would then basically say that the special meeting was called by the council. Is that my understanding?
That is correct, but it could be called at a regular meeting or at a special meeting. At any meeting of the council, it could be called at an emergency meeting.
Just using that as an example.
Just as brought up and discussed and voted on by the council. So it would be at the call of the council as opposed to at the call of a couple things there. And for Holly's concern, Holly, I understand your concern, but I think this also puts a little bit of onus on the administration before they call that 8th special meeting, that they realize that they don't have the ability to do that. So, for instance, if we want to have budget meetings, we can have Councilmember Cottle ask for the special meetings to deal with the budget, and then that way those meetings don't come under the mayor's, the number that the mayor has. So.
This is Deputy
That's
Clerk
helpful.
Stanifer. Holly, I have a question. So right now in your packet, there's an AM, you're approving your meetings for the next year. Finance is gonna be coming forward. If this goes through with an AM approving the budget meetings, so would that go against the mayor's count? Or since you all approved it, you're seeing it in an AM? I mean, that, if you all approve it, it shouldn't go against the, I'm just confused about that.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Crafton?
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, just my thought here, I don't think it would, because at that point, the way I'm thinking about this now is the mayor could call a special meeting essentially without the approval of the council up to 8 times. But if she puts or I should say the mayor, any mayor, puts forward an AM to the council and then we approve it, it's the council approving that one, just because she was the one that brought it forward. In my eyes, I mean, somebody might think of it differently, but it's basically, at that point, you could go, never use your 8 by always putting it forward as an AM first, so the council has the ability to vote on it. Now, all of those are actually technically called by the council because we're the ones that approved it, not the mayor. So I think what this does is it just says, hey, the mayor wants to do a special meeting without notifying the council prior or having council discussion. That's what the 8 is. Otherwise, just put an amendment forward.
Mr. Graham?
And I might add, Mr. Crafton, that's the whole idea behind this, is to get the council in charge of the council schedule. This doesn't restrict the number of special meetings that can be had, nor does it restrict the number of budget meetings that we can have or the number of Title 16 meetings we could have. It just says they will be on the council schedule. But the mayor can choose to have 8 meetings at her leisure. Or at her, not
Okay.
leisure, so to speak. But
So you're telling me, let me get this correct, let me understand this, that the budget meetings, Title 16 meetings, let's say Title 3, 6, whatever, is all on the council. It has nothing to do with the mayor's 8 meetings. Is that what you're saying?
that would be up to you, Madam Mayor.
How's that gonna be up to me?
Depends on how you bring it forward to the council. If you come forward and say there's gonna be a special meeting on Wednesday, the 25th, there's a special meeting on Wednesday, the 25th. So that's one of your 8. You know, if you come forward to the council with an AM saying this is what we'd like to do and the council approves it, then it's a council meeting. It's not a special meeting.
Well, how is this different than when Jamie is sitting here saying, we're gonna have a special meeting on, October the 3rd and the 7th and the 12th? And does anybody have any objections to that? If so, cause the last time we was having Title 16 meetings, and there's on Wednesday night, you finally said, I can't do these Wednesday nights anymore, and Jamie said, why didn't you say so?
Well, I'm not sure what insult you're trying to
I'm
send.
not insulting you, Stu, I'm
not sure
remember.
what insult you're trying to send my way, but what we're doing is we're just making this clear, that the
Yeah,
council.
you're making it clear
That the council
as
has
mud.
control over the council's, meeting agenda.
Yeah, reread the amendment.
Okay. The amendment on the floor. Special meetings of the council may be held at the call of the mayor or at the call of the council. That's the amendment on the floor.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none? Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Now, Madam Clerk.
Now we are back to the ordinance as amended. Ordinance serial number 2426 as amended.
Roll call vote, please.
All right. Councilmember Velock.
I know what I'm voting on.
This is on ordinance serial number 2426 as amended. Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
Councilmember Rubeo.
Yes.
Councilmember Crafton.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Cottle.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, ordinance serial number 2426 as amended passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. We are on to new business. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read AM number 24-60 by title. Okay.
It's okay with the body. We're gonna take them in order. Is that okay, Madam Mayor?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. AM number, the first AM is AM number 2455. Contract award to Dow LLC in the amount not to exceed $195,000 for the development of a comprehensive plan.
Is there a motion to approve AM number 2455?
Rubio approves.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
It has been moved by Rubio, seconded by Crafton to approve AM number 2455. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham?
Sorry, I just hadn't pushed my button after our last discussion.
Okay. Ms. Rubio?
Madam Mayor, thank you. So I was just trying to kind of get a little clarification on everything and just trying to figure it out. So more of like a statement, like this, SEDS is kind of sprinkled throughout this whole contract. And under the scope of work, I know SEDS is the Economical Development Plan, but I want to make sure that we're looking out for the citizens and the well-being in our community. So what I was kind of trying to figure out, and I don't know if it's a question, is like the SEDS driving the comprehensive plan right now? Because like when I'm reading this, it kind of feels like I said, I feel like the SEDS is sprinkled everywhere, and so I was kind of conflicted on that, so I think that's the question.
Thank you, Councilperson Rubio. So the SEDS was just the platform, and the comp plan will go into the compatibility of all the zones and the future land use. And so the SEDS can be a great resource, but it can't drive how we establish a compatibility of zones and different uses. So, yeah. And that was one of the things we worked with the contracted planner to ensure that there's balance, and we also had legal look at it as well.
Madam Mayor, I have one more, if I can. Under 4.02, the scope of service, it says the city project manager. Who is that?
That will be my role until we hire a planner.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. Probably, Crystal, this would go to you again if I could, Mayor. In here, it's, from what I was understanding, is the 195 is paying for tasks 1 through 4, but then it says 4, 5, and 6 will need additional funding in 2026. Do we have an estimated cost as to what we're looking to continue spending on this one?
Thank you, Councilmember Crafton. Yeah, so we have, when we initially put out the scope of work, it came out more than obviously budgeted. And so we were gonna bring an amendment forward in this next budget cycle for the difference. And what we have heard from the contractors is, I mean, like all of us, there's some staffing issues that might take a little bit longer. But we've also, it's 12 years since we've done this, and there's been a tremendous amount of growth in Wasilla, and so we don't want to start cutting the fabric back. We'd rather be realistic about what it's going to cost. So we'll be bringing an amendment forward to ensure that we have the full funding, which will take about 18 months. We'd like to get it done in a year, but, you know, that's where we are right now.
Perfect. And just to follow up on that, so is this 195 paying through tasks 1 through 4? Or is it 1, 2, and 3, and then the next amount will be 4, 5, and 6?
It's 1 through 4.
Okay, so the next one will be 5 and 6.
Correct.
Technically. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next item of new business is AM number 2456, contract award to Swickard Alaska 2 LLC in the amount of $51,614 for the purchase of one 2024 police package Chevrolet Silverado, and this was pulled by Councilmember Graham.
Okay, is there a motion to approve AM number 2456?
Madam Mayor, I move AM 2456.
Is there a second?
Second, Johnson.
The motion's been made by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve AM number 2456. Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for the chief. This is a purchase of a Silverado pickup truck. Is this for code enforcement? Is this replacing a vehicle? Is this adding a vehicle? What are we doing here?
To Councilmember Graham, through the mayor, this is for patrol. Back in FY '24, we had attempted to order 3 Chevy Tahoes that were the police package. Due to the limited number of allocations, we're only obtaining 2 out of the 3. We tried for quite a while to be on a wait list to get the 3rd allocation. Did not happen. Since then, Swickard, on their own choosing, had a police package Silverado delivered to them. It arrived in mid-June. It's currently on the lot because I was wanting to check it out, run it through some testing, ran it through our mechanic out there, very similar to the Tahoe. So really it's just replacing the one Tahoe that we did not get with the Silverado due to the limited number of allocations that GM is restricting in FY '24, and what I presume is going to also restrict here in FY '25.
May I follow up?
Yes.
So the whole reason behind the Tahoes was the increased interior space for interior storage. Is this Silverado gonna have some sort of weather-protected storage on the back of it, or will that come as an additional request?
Surprising, it will still be outfitted, and that was part of the reason why Swickard drove the vehicle out to our department to take a look at it, to look at configuration. Surprisingly enough, when all this was going on, I was at a conference out of state, and the pickup truck that I had rented was sideswiped in a parking lot. Long story short, the sheriff's office come out and did a report, and they actually had a brand new F-150 pickup truck, and I was able to climb all over the back of the truck and look and see how they configured it. And with that, kind of give us some ideas that should be cheaper to outfit because of some configurations that we decided to do. But yes, there will be a hard tonneau cover out the back, but we configured it where the back seat would not be a full partition. We'll go what they call as a 2/3 partition to utilize some of the space right behind the driver for their gear, their firearms, and other required stuff that they need to have with them.
So the further outfitting of this truck is gonna be around $5,000, less than $10,000, is that what you're telling me?
I don't know yet. We're gonna configure it out. Still needs lights on it. It will still need to be decaled, be a back tonneau cover. The partition, we'll have to price that out, but it's only, they call it a 2/3 partition. They're very popular in the canine part where the dog sits on one side of the seat, and then the single seat of the vehicle would be the prisoner compartment. We do have some left over from the Tahoe that was damaged. We could probably utilize some of that if we haven't already on some of the builds. But we will work with Alaska Safety if this gets approved to configure it as cheaply as efficiently as possible.
So just to restate here, my initial question, what you're telling me is that we're not adding to the fleet, we're just filling out the fleet what we already authorized. Thank you, Chief.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next item is AM number 2457, Contract award to Swickard Alaska 2 LLC in the amount of $64,424 for the purchase of a 2025 Chevrolet one-ton flatbed truck for the Menard Center, and this was pulled by Councilmember Graham.
Okay, is there a motion to approve AM number 2457?
Madam Mayor, I move AM 2457.
Is there a second?
Cottle seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham, seconded by Councilmember Cottle. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham?
Questions for Mr. Bell here. Are we replacing something here? Same question we had for the chief. Are we replacing something here? Are we adding to the fleet? And if we're adding to it, what is it that we're taking away? I mean, this essentially is a truck that can handle a plow and a sander. Is there some sort of savings to us, fiscal savings to us to doing this? Or is it kind of a wash where it just adds to our ability to move things around in the Menard Center?
Councilmember Graham, through the mayor, thank you for that question. So it'll be considered a current addition, so it'll take us from one truck. We have a current F-250 with a plow and kind of a smaller sander, and this will give us a one-ton truck that can handle a larger sander chipper. It'll create more flexibility for us to be able to handle the amount of plowing we need to do. The existing truck is 7 years old, and it has, that single truck plows the whole Menard Center. Unless we get over 5-6 inches of snow, then we contract it out. So the idea is that if we have two vehicles, then we can have more staff that can respond quicker. This truck would be configured to really handle the abuse that it needs to do. It'll additionally help us handle the expanded parking area. So all that collectively, the more vehicles we have, then yes, we can, in theory, reduce how much we have to go to a contractor because what we'll do is we'll plow the primary lots, and then if we have an event, then we have to do the big lots, and that usually requires the graders and the more expensive grading equipment. Additionally, this has a flatbed, because right now, the current truck is just a F-250 bed with a sander in it. So when that sander is in it, I can't use it to throw out 30 cones for traffic, for setup and things like that. So this gives us a little bit more flexibility if I have to take off a piece of equipment. But this purchase really is our kind of the thinking is the beast to be able to really handle what we've been trying to do out there.
Follow up?
Yes.
So a follow-up, but actually this one's gonna go to your neighbor here in finance. So is this gonna add X amount of dollars per year to our vehicle replacement fund, or are we keeping the authorized number of vehicles at the Menard Center at one? The authorized number of pickup trucks at one? How's this gonna affect us year after year?
It will be additional money in the vehicle replacement cycle that we will be funding through the budget. That will be correct in order as the Menard Center continues to expand their parking lot expansions into their back lots and the need in order for us to continue to remove snow and to sand and have the amount of events that are happening out there at this time, we would need two vehicles in order for them to maintain that. So it will be added to the vehicle fund replacement fund.
At a cost of how many dollars per year?
Currently right now, we budget roughly about $15,000 a year for the current one, and so, is it 10?
Yeah,
It
so
is 10,
we
yeah.
went from the first truck that we had didn't have really a vehicle replacement fund. We had it for 17 years, I think. So then we started putting $4,000 away, and then COVID prices skyrocketed. So I believe two cycles ago, we bumped it to 10, so we had a chance to recover or to replace the existing. In this past budget cycle in capital, we requested $50,000. So that amount with the amount that we had accumulated will take care of all of this. And then going forward, we don't need to fund it as at a higher level. We can go back to our $10,000 a year, and then we can replace these vehicles every 6-8 years, depending kind of on how they do.
And will the plow and sander come forward as an additional request for funds.
It's the
So
actual-
right here, we're just talking about the truck, we're not talking about making it a useful truck.
It's the very next AM, is the sander and the plow, is the next action, is the next AM.
Thank you. I'm gonna vote for this, but during the next budget cycle, I think we should talk about whether we really need 2 trucks out there at a cost of $10,000 per year for each truck, but thank you.
Is there further discussion?
Madam
Ms.
Mayor, I
Rubio.
do have a question, so that kind of leads to the budget, but, you know, what is the cost of us getting this other pickup, which I do understand replacement, I understand all of that, but at what cost would it be better to use, to contract it out versus take our employees out of the facility to maintain our parking lot?
Councilmember Rubio, so part of the combination here is we've been trying to stay up with the amount of snowfall, which we all know has been crazy. 2 budget cycles ago, we had $12,500 for contracted snow service to help whenever we hit that 6 inches or more. Then the previous budget cycle, or the current one that just passed, we went up to 25 because we actually spent almost $25,000 last year. So the year before, we went over. And so this takes us to the balance of us being able to handle day-to-day, lower snow, quick response, things like that. If we went to a fully contracted snow plow service, we'd probably easily be, just throwing a dart, $60,000 to $90,000 probably. Because we're, with contracted service, each piece is averaging $160, I think, to $250 an hour. And we require usually the contracted service usually is a grader and a loader. Again, depending on the snow load, the location. But some of those pieces of equipment can't get into the tight areas quite as well. So then we have the push over onto the sidewalks. We do have a Bobcat that allows us to kind of go through certain areas to maintain them. But the big picture, if it was contracted, we have the challenge of them being available, when we open the door, because we had an inch of snow. And we literally, if we had 30 to 50 snow days, assume easily $1,000 per time the snow occurred. When we've had major events with major snow from 6 to 12 inches, it can take that crew 4 to 6 hours easy at about $400 an hour. So what we're trying to do is keep maintaining the facility as cost effective as we can and calling in the large equipment when we can't handle it or there's a larger need. Because if the building opens at 7:30, if I've got a couple of staff members, they can come in, they start their day at 7. We can at least get the really basic areas done, transition into the sidewalks, and then we can kind of say, okay, we have some breathing room, open the building, go from there. My challenge with if we went 100% contracted, I just couldn't guarantee that they could be there every day when I needed them to handle an inch of snow here or there. And where we can do it at times that are, if let's say we have the back lot and we don't have an event over a 2-day, 3-day period, my staff can go out and just clear it and we don't have to contract it at a higher rate. So we're progressing from where we've been, because it used to be, don't call contracted service. We only have, I think at one point we had $8,000 budgeted. So we've progressed that and we've just done most of it, unless it's that big snowfall. Long story short.
No, that sounds great. Madam Mayor, one more question if I can.
Sure.
So you say that we are shorthanded with staff. My question to you, as a business owner myself, to send one of my employees out to plow the parking lot is not good use of their time. And so I guess what I'm thinking is, and what I'm hearing is at the prime times of huge events, we're already mostly shorthanded working overtime anyways. So now we're gonna put that employee out in to remove snow? And so
No.
I'm confused with that. Go
Understand.
ahead.
So, not this budget cycle, the budget cycle before, you authorized a new full-time employee, taking us to 3 plus a supervisor. July 1, you guys approved so that we now have a 4th full-time person. So we have more staff than we've ever had. Not that we don't have challenges of the ability, again, open, plow, do all the millions of things that we do, but we've done it with less, because that was kind of our mandate for quite a while. We have expanded how much we are using through contracted service. We've improved the tools that we're using, like snow blower on the Bobcat. We got a larger box plow for the Bobcat, so we've been adding these tools so that the staff that we have and the team that we have been able to and can handle it unless we get over to a certain snow load, and then that's when we trigger the contractor. But, you know, I can't predict the snow, how much, when it's gonna fall, if it's at nighttime, if it's at daytime. And so it's a really crazy balance of what we accomplish with what we have. And this is a second tool. One, again, the current truck, it went down last year 3 different times for approximately almost 20 days, including the plow, because it's all just been the original equipment. So the idea is something stronger that can handle the load, balance the abuse the first truck is getting, and now we have another tool again that we can use, that we can count on, because it is newer, and hopefully we'll be meeting our needs even on that next level.
My question has to do with availability of this truck. Is this truck something that's available now, or is this something we're gonna authorize now and that we may not see for a couple of years?
Contracting was, it sounded like it would be available sooner, not, originally we thought it was, because it is Sourcewell, I believe, I didn't get an actual delivery date, but it's not next season, is our understanding. Hopefully will be this, hopefully some part during this coming season.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. AM number 2458, contract award to Trailer Craft Inc. in the amount of $30,400 for the purchase of a 2024 Western plow and sander for the Menard Center. This was moved by Councilmember Graham.
Is there a motion to approve AM number 2458?
Madam Mayor, I move AM 2458.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'll second that motion.
It has been moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Crafton to approve AM number 2458. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think all my questions were answered in the previous discussion. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Johnson?
Madam Mayor, there's handwritten notes there that basically talk about install. Who does the install on?
So, Trailer Craft will be doing the install for that equipment. And this is also a Sourcewell contract.
So does this additional package have anything to do with the warranty that would come with the new truck?
This is exclusively the plow, the sander, and the installation of that onto the vehicle. There's no additional warranty attached to this.
Correct, but when we modify the truck, sometimes that invalidates parts of the warranty of a truck. Is that going to be the case here? For instance, when we take and modify the structural frame of the front of the truck for the plow, does that have any implication to the warranty on that truck frame?
Our understanding is, so on the previous AM, Swickard is providing the vehicle in a manner, because they don't do the bed. So Bob's Services, if you look in the first AM, will prep the vehicle to take the equipment that is necessary. Then it goes to trailer craft, which will then put those items on. So the original hardware and prep for the next phase is handled through the dealership.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
question on that. Does Trailer Craft put a maintenance plan or any kind of coverage on the plow and the sander for us?
I don't have any documentation on any of that at this time. I believe there is probably some Trailer Craft isn't, but the manufacturers will have their warranties, but no extended warranties.
So Madam Mayor, do we pick up all the maintenance on that then?
If there's repairs that need to be done, depending on what they are, 90% of them are handled by my maintenance specialist, so he does the repair. We usually just order the parts, and he takes care of the repair work on the things that he can take care of. And history's been that he's been able to take care of that for us.
Further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is AM number 2459, contract award to Tools Equipment Repair LLC in the amount of $31,113.24 for vac truck repairs.
Is there a motion to approve AM number 24-59?
Madam Mayor, I move AM number 2459.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I second.
It has been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Cottle. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. I see Eric's already got the microphone. First question, what is the exact purpose? I tried looking these trucks up and they look funny and they're very expensive is what I found. So first question, what's the purpose of this truck? If you could explain it to me.
Absolutely, thank you for that question. It serves many purposes. It's almost a Swiss Army knife. If it were just on the sewer side, it'd be used for cleaning out sewer systems, but we typically use it for manhole cleaning, catch basin cleaning, and then it has become an invaluable tool for construction. It basically is a laser that cuts into the ground. We suck out excavations. It's very useful across roads and the construction side of the house. So we often pair with our contractors for potholing if we're looking for water leaks, but we do use it for regular maintenance with all of our storm drain cleaning, and it has a high pressure jet pump too, so we can send it down storm drains and flush it out as well. So not only does it wash things out, but it vacuums it up, as its name implies, and we can do spot excavation with it as needed.
And follow up to that, Mayor, how
Okay.
old is this truck now?
Great question. It's a 2009, and it has almost 1,700 hours on it.
Okay. And sorry to last one here, Mayor. These repairs, I assume it's probably been determined, is it better to continue repairing this truck, or are we gonna start looking at trying to replace this truck? And from what I understand, we're looking at potentially $250,000 to replace it from what I looked up and saw.
Excellent question. It's more like $700,000.
Oh, wow.
So we keep it in tip-top running condition, but what we need to repair right now is a heat exchanger. It's kind of interesting. It uses the water tank that it stores the usable water that we're going to flush things with. It uses that as a radiator. So it pushes the hydraulic fluid into that water tank to offset the heat that it creates through the hydraulic process. And what we're seeing is corrosion in that system that keeps shutting it down due to high pressure. And so we don't want to burn up pumps, and so we need to replace the internal plumbing that cools the hydraulic system. So while $31,000 is an expensive repair, in the light that it would be more than $700,000 to replace, and its value to our daily operations, we are asking for the funding to keep it operational.
Thank you, that answers all my questions, Mayor.
Ms. Cottle?
Madam Mayor, through the Mayor to Public Works. Eric, how many vac trucks do we have?
We have this one in roads, and then we have one that's obsolete, not operational in the sewer side.
Are we looking at replacing the vac truck on the sewer side?
We are.
And what are we looking at as far as a timeline for that?
We have those ordinances that you saw introduced tonight
Right.
to move some monies around so that we can add to the funding that we already received in the last budget cycle. Our request that will be coming forward will be for a smaller system, something that's a little bit more nimble because of the way the sewer side would use it. But this is the powerhouse for roads and support of our contractors.
With what we did approve tonight in ordinance 2435, is that with the monies that you've moved from accounts, is that going to be enough yet to pay for replacement of the sewer side back truck? Or is that gonna have to go through another budget cycle?
Well, so ordinance 2435 wasn't approved. It'll come, of course, to you in the next meeting. We appreciate you moving it to be heard. The way we've scheduled that funding, we believe if those ordinances are adopted, we will have the funds we need. Because as Mr. Bell talked about, we are looking at Sourcewell as well. And so we've been able to look at different size models. We believe the funding package that we'll be putting together through those ordinances and the funding through the last budget cycle will be enough to procure that smaller vac truck for the sewer department.
All right, and then if I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So the truck that you're looking at doing the 31,000 in repairs for, how much life do you expect after these repairs? Do you estimate that this truck is gonna still last for us?
Yeah, I think 5 years is a safe estimate.
All right, thank you.
Further discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Graham?
I realize you've been here a fairly short time, Eric, but didn't we, during the previous directors last year, didn't we approve about $200,000 in repairs to this truck? I mean, I'm trying to trace this back in my mind. There was a considerable chunk of money for a vac truck.
This has had some repairs to it. I don't believe it's quite that much. One of the more costly repairs was one of our graders. That might be sticking out in your mind. We lost a transmission last winter.
Okay, so this is the vac truck that looks brand new and shiny most of the time?
Yeah, our staff does a great job. The issue with this system is imagine climbing inside of a concrete truck to make repairs. These repairs are inside the water tank. So they're custom and they're hard to get to, and so there's materials involved.
Further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. And we are on, right, Elena is exiting. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read AM number 2460 by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just for the record, Councilmember Rubeo has left the room. This is AM number 2460, approving a contract amendment to Big Dipper Construction, Inc. in the amount of $134,988.99 for additional work on the Richmond Hills Booster Station project.
Is there a motion to adopt AM number 24-60?
Madam Mayor, I move that we adopt AM number 2460.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Cottle and seconded by Councilmember Velock to adopt AM number 24-60. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you once again to Eric. I see it's kind of in spreadsheet form here what it is that is happening there. Could you cleverly explain that to we laymen what's going on here?
Absolutely.
And why it's additional work as opposed to work that we originally asked for?
Yes, that's a great question. You'll note that the funding is out of the account for the project, so it is an account balance that we have. So as you know, when projects are underway, there are unforeseen changes. Several of the pay items have to do with excavation. When we find unsuitable material, we need to replace it. there are unit prices for that. So as a contractor works through the work and we say, oh, that's not suitable over there, please excavate that, those are unit prices. And so this squares up some of that extra work. You'll notice that there's some 12 and 16-inch waterline explorations or installs. Those have to do with changes made when we figured out what was down there. Unfortunately, the original pump station, the plumbing and the as-built weren't quite right. So when the contractor had the 12-foot deep hole open, we said, oh, that wasn't how the plan showed it from the 80s. So there's changes that are needing to be made, and that's not the contractor's fault. So there's costs that come with that. There's another explanation about some stumps that were found. We can't just leave those under a facility, so we had to remove those too. Some gas line work, extra paving to make the facility more useful, some roofing, that's what the drip line's about. 3 pipe supports have to do with some plumbing supports inside the new facility to make it safer and have it supported correctly, especially from seismic concerns once it was installed. Some fence changes, and then some additional landscaping. And then there's, the last part has to do with some additional storage in the back. So some of these are squaring up work that was done during construction using the available funding within that account with your approval, and then capitalizing on the storage at that facility to make some spots that are more out of the weather, because we store a lot of backup parts for emergencies or repairs at that facility as well.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. We are now at communications. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the title of the IM and commission minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think,
We need to wait for Elena to return.
yeah, I'm not sure which one.
Okay. We are now at communications. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the title of the IM and commission minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is one informational memorandum and 2 sets of commission meeting minutes. IM number 2412, Audit Planning Report, fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Commission minutes, Planning Commission minutes for August 27th, 2024, and Parks and Recreation Commission minutes for September 11th, 2024.
Thank you. We are now at audience comments, which is a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Additionally, over the last year, the city of Wasilla has routinely had members of the public attend and read excerpts from novels, some of which involve sexual content and are descriptions of incest or domestic violence that are not intended for children under the age of 14 and or may be triggering to listeners and viewers based upon their past experiences. For those of you with young children viewing or listening to this meeting, or who may be triggered by the description of incest and domestic violence, please be aware we are now entering public comment. And you may want to mute the video or temporarily exit the meeting. We will notify the public when public comment has ended and council is moving on to the next item on the agenda. For those of you participating in public comment tonight, I respectfully ask you to remember that our attendees, viewers, and listeners may be under the age of 14 or victims of domestic violence and are not choosing to read the passages that you are choosing to read to them. And you have 3 minutes, and begin by stating your first, last name, and if you are a member of city council, the city of Wasilla. Let me put you on the council.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name is Jackie Goforth. What I handed the clerk is an email response I got from the librarian of the Wasilla Library. And the reason we're corresponding is because I had mentioned concerns about a book by Sarah Moss called Empire of Storms. And his reply to me, as you can read, says that the book was moved by the publisher to adult. Not only was that book moved by the publisher, but all 8 books in the series were. So this is a book that people are calling banned. It's a banned book, this entire series called Throne of Glass. I can list you all the titles, but I won't. But to move a book from young adult to adult shouldn't be something called banned. It's asking to relocate it so that it's out of the hands of children, because it's an illegal substance just like tobacco and alcohol. And for the publisher to move it out of their children's division, this is a member, it's Bloomberg Publishing, I believe, Bloomberry, and they're out of Macmillan Corporation. And this was in their children's department. And they moved the entire series to adult. So doesn't that mean it shouldn't have been in young adult in the first place? And if we're going to say that books are being banned, the publisher just banned it. Now, I know why this happened, because I'm a writer and I know the tricks they use. The reason why is because the young adult market is very small and it's much easier to be a best-selling author in it. And so they make their heroines or their protagonist in the books a teen. Most of them, this one is 19. They just, instead of 20, make them 19, and you can put them in the young adult. And since there's a young adult section in every bookstore and every library, your chances of being a #1 bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list are extremely high. It's not the same as going up against the adult fiction market. That's why they're putting these books in young adult. It's for the money and to put them on bestseller status, because this book should never have been a young adult book in the first place. Now, last year when I challenged a book in the borough from the same author, it was the Court series. She has a Court series. And I talked to the librarian about it, and after she read it, she said the same thing. The protagonist is 19, and I'm moving the entire series to adult. So that entire series was moved to adult by the librarian in the borough. I want you to know that the book, Juliet Takes a Breath, out of Talkeetna has been moved by the librarian. The entire series by Ellen Hopkins, as a writer, is being moved. The librarian in Trapper Creek just moved Tricks, and up at Sutton, they just moved one called Breathless. So the librarians are now starting to notice that if the protagonist is over a teen, and you'll notice they're very rarely under 16 for some reason, it's because it's against the law. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Okay. Anyone else? Please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name, and if you are a member of the city residency.
My name is KJ Martin Albright. I am not a city resident, but I do all my shopping here and pay sales tax. I have a master's degree in library science from Indiana University Bloomington and have worked in academic, government, and public libraries. In watching the last city council meeting, without any context other than the partial catalog record and 3 pages from Anne Frank's diary, the graphic adaptation, one council person described the book as abhorrent, anti-Semitic, and untrue. The materials you were given did not include the entire library catalog record or the adapter's note from the actual work. You were given exactly what the person speaking against the book wanted you to see. If you search for this book in Wasilla's online library catalog, the abstract comes up as part of the record and states that the book in question is, quote, the only graphic biography of Anne Frank's diary that has been authorized by the Anne Frank Foundation, end quote. Anne Frank Fonds, or Foundation, which was founded by Otto Frank, Anne Frank's father, in 1963, is devoted to the global distribution and utilization of the diary of Anne Frank. Anne Frank's diary, the graphic adaptation, is based on the 1991 definitive edition of the diary, which included text from Anne's diaries that had been omitted in earlier versions. Wasilla Public Library's collection development policy, which outlines the criteria used in adding materials to the library collection, states that our library holds censorship to be a purely individual matter and declares that while anyone is free to reject for himself books and other materials of which he does not approve, he cannot exercise this right of censorship to restrict the freedom of others. While I would encourage this council person to examine the work as a whole, I do believe he is free to reject for himself this book of which he does not approve, and I respect his right to his opinion. I also ask that you respect my opinion, which is this: a graphic novel that tells Anne Frank's story in Anne Frank's own words, with illustrations adapted to bring the diary to life in a new way for a new generation of readers, created as a project by the foundation that Anne Frank's own father founded, is neither anti-Semitic or untrue. I have been watching the attack on library materials across the city, borough, state, and nation over the last few years. Censorship is a slippery slope. Public libraries should have something to offend everyone. That is how you know that collections are being developed for the entire community. As cornerstones of democracy, libraries seem to be the last place standing where the public can go to get vetted, reliable information on all sides of an issue. Please protect intellectual freedom, the freedom to read, and the public library for all of us. Thank you.
Please begin your testimony with your first, last name, and if you are a city resident.
Jeannie Trushinsky, President, Friends of Wasilla Library. I live outside the city limits, spend many hours volunteering inside the city limits. It's always fascinating hearing what Jackie's Book of the Week she'll attack is. The things that she leaves out are so disturbing, like that Sarah J. Maas wrote the first book in that series when she was 16 years old. And she was pursued to publish the series because it was so phenomenal. There is going to be a Starfall Ball in Anchorage in October. They sold 300 tickets, $150 a ticket, in 3 minutes. I was contacted by some of the ACOTAR fans. They are a wildly popular series. But the librarians are doing their job, because when things change over time and the publisher says, hey, as the books go on, they do become more adult context, we should move them to the adult section from the young adult. Makes sense, they're doing their job. Same thing with Harry Potter. Harry Potter's author even says, Harry started out at 9 years old, but he ended up as a teenager and an old teenager, and those books that started off in the hands of like 4th and 5th graders being really popular, really by the end of the series should have been for high school students. It's not just these books that they randomly get off of national sites. Well, I got a lot of things on my real list. 8 years ago yesterday, we moved into the new Wasilla Public Library. In the 2024 fiscal year, 107,662 patrons came through the doors. We checked out 240,158 physical items. October 7th, our Firelight Book Club will begin. We're going to be reading and discussing Remarkably Bright Creatures. October 8th, we have tea with Tricia Brown. She's an author that lives in Anchorage, and she wrote this really wonderful story called The Queen of Fairbanks about a woman in about 1911 that was really instrumental in building the community of Fairbanks. October 9th, we have our first Art for Seniors class. It's going to be on collage. And at one of the, 2 meetings ago, Member Graham asked if we should recommend we talk to WASI. We have been working with WASI for over 6 months since we began this program. They have been phenomenal at helping us get out the surveys and share the information about the program. And we're working with a number of other groups in the area in Wasilla. October 22nd, Music in the Library with Aspinero and 3021. And we're going to have Trick or Treat around the Story Walk in conjunction with the Music in the Library story. And I have some things for the clerk to share with you. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Audience comments? Seeing no one, I will close audience comments, bring it back to the dais. And Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The October 1st regular city election update. Early in-person voting is underway here in council chambers through September 30th, weekdays 9 to 5 and Saturdays 10 to 3. The application for by-mail voting is tomorrow at 5 p.m. The next regular meeting is scheduled for October 14th. Thank you.
Madam Attorney.
No comment, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Cottle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It feels weird not working on Title 16 tonight. But that's okay. That's okay.
Break is needed.
You know, there are times I feel like I wonder if we're gonna get through it all in my lifetime. And you know, we've had a lot of lively discussion on special meetings tonight. Sometimes I wonder if we should have a special meeting where we can sit down for more than just a short time and get through some of this. So I'd love it if everybody would just think about that. Other than that, please, everybody that lives in the city limits, please go out and vote. I know that our ballot is not super exciting with all kinds of new things on it, as far as things for people to vote on, for goings on in the city. We're not raising any taxes, we're not doing anything like that, so which is great. But I'd still like to see people come out and vote, because voting is still very important no matter what's on the ballot. And that's all I have.
Councilmember Velock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it's nice not to work on Title 16 tonight. And I do want to thank everyone for coming. We do appreciate that and appreciate all your views, different views. So please keep coming. We do actually do some checking behind the scenes and some research. So keep coming. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson.
No more comments, Mayor, thank you.
Councilmember Crafton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody for the lively discussion. I know it's not the first time we've had the conversation about special meetings and pay, so I appreciate us, hunkering down and finally getting through this. And I will say, as much as I've been enjoying Title 16, it was a little bit of a nice break, and I am also not opposed to if we needed to schedule something to just really knock it out instead of tacking it on to the end of the meeting. It helps us be fresh too when we have that. So thank you all and have a good night.
Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to thank the staff for some really good explanations today for questions and Eric for the presentation on what's going to be happening with the couplet there. One of the biggest things that we can do as a council people is keep our neighbors informed of what's happening, and the more information we get from you guys, the better we are at doing that. And I think the better we are at doing that, the better voter turnout we have. Like Ms. Velock said, we're gonna have pretty low voter turnout this time. Only she and I are running unopposed. The ballot is amazingly short, but I certainly encourage everybody to get out and vote. If you're in the habit of voting, stay in the habit, because you never know when you get out of the habit, when something else will fall through the cracks. And of course, I wanted to thank those of you in attendance. Senator Wilson, always a pleasure to have you update us. Thank you very much there. And Madam Mayor, I move to reconsider item 8.4.1 on the agenda, AM number 2454, to correct a technical issue. 8.4.1, AM 2454.
Rubio seconds.
Okay. Is there any objection? This is, Councilmember Graham just moved to reconsider AM 2454, approving the City Council regular meeting schedule for calendar year 2025. This passed unanimously. He was on the prevailing side. Is there any objection to the motion? Then it is on the floor. There's already a motion to adopt pending.
Madam Mayor, I would just note that on AM 2454, there's references to Wasilla Municipal Code 2.0 4.060 says one regular meeting pursuant to that. In my copy of Wasilla Municipal Code, that reference does not exist. That section of code exists, but there is no reference to only having one regular meeting. So I'm not asking to change this, but I would ask that the clerk's office investigate that and put the proper citation in there and let us know how that happens. So. But I realized since I brought it up and it was seconded, it does have to be voted on, so I'm suggesting everybody vote no on reconsideration, so that it can just be technically corrected.
Okay, is it? Go ahead. Is there any objection?
Is
Okay,
there
we
objection
will-
to the motion?
I know there's only, we will look into it, thank you. And the code section.
Okay, but I think if there's no objection to the motion, then the vote would be yes to reconsider, which I don't think we want to do.
It's already on the floor to be reconsidered.
Right, so if we vote no, then they won't be reconsidered,
So you
but your
need-
office
you
can
need
fix
an
it.
objection.
Yes.
Madam
Okay.
Mayor, I object.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay, perfect.
So now, Mayor, I have some Tylenol in my desk.
Okay, thank you. Back.
Okay. Roll call vote. Does Crafton objected?
I thought he objected to the reconsideration, so now it's just back to where, now we're, okay, I got it.
Vote on it.
Sorry, I'm getting tired.
So if we vote no on the reconsideration, it stays as we voted. The clerk's office will make the correction.
Yes. Okay,
Okay. Everybody's got to vote no.
okay. Cottle. No. Graham,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Crafton,
No.
Wheelock,
No.
Rubio.
No.
The reconsideration fails.
Okay.
Thank you. My comments, I'm sure you're sorry to hear that.
Councilmember Rubio.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I gotta pick on Stu for a moment. Might be the only time. Stu, obviously you didn't do early voting yet because VLOC is not on the ballot.
Sorry.
Just so you know. I did early vote last Monday and no lines, nobody. I was in and out. It's perfect, on my way. So I did get my vote in. And then I just wanted to say thanks to the staff for having grace for my questions, just clarifying and making sure that I understand it completely. So I appreciate that. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you to my staff. You guys always do an excellent job. The city, in my opinion, is ran very efficiently, and it's because of all of you. And I appreciate your due diligence. And thank you guys from the Friends of the Public Library. You are a very integral part of that library and have been since before we got the new library, because without you, we wouldn't have had the new library. So, thank you. Senator, it's always great to see you. Thank you for coming. With that, we are adjourned at 8:47.
Holly Wells has left.